Yeah, Deathrow is actually switching his tech labs on the barracks for his factory, so he's going to be instantly probably going to get siege tech or pre-igniter for those for Broken Rhythm's army, as his army is actually composed entirely of light units. Right now, though, we do have a scouting Phoenix going to be going to Deathrow's base, seeing whatever he can. And this scouting unit Phoenix is not actually hallucinated; it's just a real Phoenix. But yeah, Phoenixes are very, very good for scouting. It makes for a kind of another form of observer, I guess. It's much more mobile, but then again, it's also much easier to kill. And that Phoenix almost goes down. It does go down from the turret power of Deathrow's base. But if you notice, actually, the back of Deathrow's base, there is actually no turret. So Broken Rhythm could sneak in some Void Rays, some Phoenixes, do some work or harass at Deathrow's base, and limit him only to one base at his expansion. But right now, I think Broken Rhythm is in a fairly advanced position. He's got a couple Zealots, a few High Templars perched up at the Zelnaga Tower, closer to Deathrow's base. I'm really wondering why Deathrow is not opting for Hellion with Pre-Igniter, as that would just be great against Broken Rhythm's entire army, and Psystorming Hellions is really a waste of Psystorm, in my opinion.
Yeah, I actually, when the first time you said that, I looked at his army composition, and it is literally only Zealots and High Templars at this point, which Hellions with the Pre-Igniter would absolutely dominate that if you got about, 8 or 10 of those, along with the infantry that he has available. But there are a large number of High Templars here, so we could very well see a lot of Psystorm in the very near future, which is pretty strong against infantry, although now that he's getting mech units in the mix here, it may not be quite as potent, but hey, you can never have too much Psystorm in the mix, in my opinion. That is definitely one of the more powerful spells that the Protoss has at their disposal.
Oh, did you just see how Broken Rhythm moved his army past the choke when Deathrow was at the high ground?
I did not.
Oh, he was attacking Deathrow's destructible rocks at his natural, and he moved his army back when Deathrow started attacking from the top, and he went past the choke right by a ghost that had full energy almost, so that ghost could have double ENP those High Templars, and then Deathrow could have pushed out, and he would have been against no Psystorm at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Using that EMP would have been crucial. And aside from taking down, for anybody that may not be aware, aside from EMP taking the shields away from Protoss units, it also does take away all the energy for the units that it affects. So that is definitely something that is very useful against a Protoss army, especially when they have High Templars in the mix as well, and any kind of caster really. But looking at Broken Rhythm's econ, he already has his second expansion up and running, and it looks like there's another expansion for Deathrow getting ready to go down at the high yield base. So both of these players, now that the early pressure has kind of worn off, so to speak, both of them are kind of sitting back and transitioning into more of a macro-heavy game at this point. So we're going to see a lot of usage of the resources on this map, and probably some big battles a little bit further down the road here. I'm curious to see exactly what Broken Rhythm mixes into his army mix right now, because, as we mentioned earlier, he has only Zealots and High Templars. He does have the capability to build just about any tech he wants to. He has the tech for Stalkers, he has the tech for his Immortals, of course, and pretty much any gateway units as well, other than Dark Templars. So there are a lot of tech options at his disposal, and currently he is only using High Templars and Zealots, it looks like.
Yeah, definitely. I think he might have done a little bit better breaking up his tech a little bit, but regardless, I think that Deathrow sees his army, and for some reason does not decide to push out, so his tech choices are fairly solid at this point. But we do see that Broken Rhythm decides to take an expansion closer towards Deathrow's base. Even though Deathrow did get the high yield, I was kind of curious to why Broken Rhythm did not decide to get his own high yield. Akaya, do you have any thoughts on this?
You know what, to be honest, I'm not really sure, other than perhaps if he's thinking he can fortify the bottom, because the way it looks like this map plays out when more the macro game kind of takes over in the late game is players will basically take whatever side they're on. As you can see on the right here, Deathrow is pretty much just expanding straight down the side. And I'm sorry, hold that thought. We got a battle going on here, and there are a lot of charged Zealots and some good Psystorms going down on the infantry, and now on the workers at this expansion. Wow, a lot of Psystorms just absolutely wreaking havoc on the economy of that expansion. And it looks like Deathrow is going to be able to hold that off, but he lost pretty much the whole, Broken Rhythm lost pretty much his whole army, and one lone Archon left to be taken down by himself with the remaining Terran units. But anyways, what I was saying is that on the side here, you can see Deathrow is pretty much just expanding all the way down the right side, And perhaps Broken Rhythm's thought process is if he can take some of these expansions on the bottom on the right side before Deathrow can get there, maybe he can not only secure some of these bottom right ones, but he can also secure the left side. But I don't know. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of curious to me too. I haven't actually seen a whole lot of intellectual talk on how the expansions play out on this map. So
Looking at Broken Rhythm's third expansion right now, he has a ton of Void Rays and some Zealots, and Deathrow is actually moving out with quite a large army. Looking at the army size right now, they do look fairly even, but most of the cost is in those Void Rays, which are pretty cheesy in my opinion. Broken Rhythm actually warping in or moving with 3 Archons, and those Archons are going to do disgusting amounts of work to those Marines. Oh my god, that's basically like a unit that shoots out banelings against Marines. And right now we do have Broken Rhythm moving out with a ridiculous number of Archons. Going to be moving into Deathrow's gold expansion right now. Those Archons do get taken out. I'm sorry, I meant ridiculous amount of Void Rays. Those Archons do get taken out fairly quickly by those Siege Tanks, but now those Siege Tanks are helpless against these Void Rays. And if you look at the missile turret, it's actually being repaired by those 6 SCVs, and these Void Rays will be able to take that down regardless of how many SCVs are repairing, as Void Rays just do so much damage once they're fully charged. The Siege Tanks of Deathrow are moving back slightly because he does not want to lose them to this combined Void Ray power, as Void Rays kill at this point, I think the Void Rays would be able to one-shot the number of Siege Tanks he had, but right now Deathrow having 4 Vikings in, those 4 Vikings doing amazing work against those Void Rays, and those Void Rays don't look like they will be able to run, so I think Broken Rhythm at this point is just going to go all in with the Void Rays, try to kill as much as possible while they're alive, and Deathrow doing some good micro, going to be microing those Marines back, and he actually killed a huge number of Zealots with 1 volley of those Siege Tanks.
Yeah, there are so many siege tanks up on that high ground. It looks like he's got 11 siege tanks sieged up there, and just covers a pretty good area. And the amount of splash damage from those siege tanks is just insane. So he definitely is set up to defend against any kind of units that would come at him on the ground on that high ground. But there are definitely more Void Rays coming out on the map. It looks like there's 4 more right now coming across the expansions down at the bottom there. And it looks like he is sticking with these Void Rays for the time being. I'm looking at the production menu right now, and it looks like that's the only thing he's producing. He is researching the attack upgrade. Okay, here we go. And a few more Zealots here starting to warp in now too. So getting that in the mix. But we just saw just a second ago how extremely powerful Void Rays are. Oh, and a lot more Psy Storms going down. And these Void Rays are going to tear up these tanks because there is no anti-air right now. Although it looks like those Void Rays for some reason are going to try to go after the Vikings instead of taking on those tanks, which are really going to cause the most amount of damage to his base down there. But it looks like all those Void Rays going down right now. He's going to have to rally here pretty quickly to defend this base, and you can see his response at this point is warping in 9 more Zealots, trying to get some defense on there. And with that charge ability, he may be able to take out the rest of these tanks, but we'll have to see. Oh, he is moving his probes off right now, so it looks like he is just going to sack this expansion.
Actually, if you notice during this time, he is actually expanding at the gold expansion right now, so this is not a complete loss for Broken Rhythm. Taking a look at the income right now, he's actually ahead of Deathrow. I think this is because Deathrow only has 1 mining base right now. His gold expansion is not saturated at all, and his third expansion, sorry, sorry, I get my times messed up. What is that expansion in the bottom right side?
That would be like the 4 o'clock
Yeah,
position.
the 4 o'clock position is not saturated at all, so he has almost 2 unsaturated bases against Broken Rhythms. I think about to be 3. And right now we do have a little bit of aggression on Broken Rhythm. He was trying to get those tanks that were out of position with those Zealots, and Zealots are very good against tanks once they are close up, regardless of sieged or unsieged, and especially sieged. But right now, Broken Rhythm going to be moving into some Stalker play. Haven't seen this in a while, actually, and those Stalkers do not have Blink right now, but taking a look at the Harvesters, Broken Rhythm has a significantly more Harvesters, almost 20 more Harvesters than Deathrow, but both players very low on gas income right now, so I think this is going to transition to more of a less gas heavy. Instead of warping in, like 6 High Templar at a time, he's going to play a little bit more gas safe with Stalkers and Zealots.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can see that despite the lead in the Harvesters that he had, actually Deathrow has significantly caught up and has a huge lead right now too, because of if you look at the number of mules that he had, which is going to drop right now because he just lost a handful of them. But the mules were just so instrumental with how many orbital command centers he has. He he was able to call down a significant mule force, which just absolutely skyrockets your income for the time that they are.
Oh, I want
they are
to.
actually
Could I
working.
point out something real quick?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Looking at Broken Rhythm's gold, actually, Deathrow I think dropped a siege tank down there and put it in siege mode. That siege tank actually got 13 kills in probes while he was mining, or while Broken Rhythm was paying attention to the bottom. So very good play on Deathrow's part. And he's actually going to slowly siege away at Broken Rhythm's Nexus right now. Broken Rhythm has very little air units right now, so he actually has trouble taking out that siege tank. I'm sure he realizes this, and I'm sure he's trying to compensate. I think he's going to get some blink stalkers right now. I'm going to be blinking up with the Void Ray, spotting for the siege tank, and that siege tank is going down.